Welcome back to MotionPic Recap. Today we're going to recap a movie titled Hysteria. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. In 1880 London, a hospital treats women diagnosed with hysteria. A doctor called Grant, and nurses care for patients, in a dimly lit ward with antiquated medical tools like leeches. Dr. Grant asks the nurse to clean the old woman's wounds, but she says their boss told her not to waste supplies, and he says it's important to preventing sepsis caused by invisible germs. Insisting on fresh bandages and carbolic acid for germ prevention, the doctor argues with their skeptical boss, who calls germ theory poppycock. The boss demands bleeding the patient to cure her, and dismisses the doctor's methods as impertinent. Refusing to bleed the old lady, Dr. Grant resigns his job. Somewhere else, Dr. Grant arrives at his friend Lord Edmund's home. Lord Edmund asks if he was sacked again, and Dr. Grant starts criticizing current medical arts. He laments the world is set against him. Lord Edmund remarks he's willing to give him £10,000 so he can do whatever he wants. But Grant says he wants to make his own way in the world. Suddenly Lord Edmund gets his device working. Time passes by and Dr. Grant is trying to find another job as a doctor, but is turned down everywhere. Waiting in a formal room to talk to a doctor one day, he shows weariness and suddenly hears piano music. Suddenly a woman called Charlotte enters and gives a fiery speech about women's rights, and their demands for equality in education and professions. She asks Dr. Grant why he's staring but leaves before getting an answer, and the two men discuss her hysterical reaction. Dr. Grant seeks a job, and the older man asks what the younger man knows of hysteria, calling it a plague affecting half the women in London. Grant knows nothing of it, and Dr. Dalrymple describes its treatment, stating he has seen thousands of cases without losing a single patient, though the work is tedious. Grant says he's willing to help, and then Dalrymple presents his daughter Emily, the angel of the house who oversees things. He then speaks of her scientific interests, particularly phrenology, which she confirms is an accurate science. She puts her skills to use, examining his head and declaring his perfectly formed features suggest wisdom and a sympathetic nature. She declares a ridge signifies fame. Meanwhile, Lord Edmund tests his newly installed phone, a device he remarks is certain to bestow celebrity. He marvels at instant communication across London, believing the device will surely bestow fame if everyone possesses it. Grant then tells Edmund about Emily, who he found breathtaking. Edmund is glad for him, and then the two gentlemen raise a toast to each other, celebrating Grant's attraction to Emily and Edmund's love for the new telephone invention. A doctor addresses a patient's anxious and distracting thoughts, favoring a more direct approach to treat hysteria over varied treatments, using oils and his hands. He begins with the index finger. The doctor demonstrates the most direct and effective treatment, applying gentle pressure, and Grant takes notes to learn. Dr. Dalrymple continues his demonstration, applying more pressure. The patient exhibits physiological reactions, leading to a hysterical paroxysm and involuntary movements. The patient reacts strongly to the treatment, and the doctor deems it a great success, scheduling another session for tomorrow, which she's looking forward to. Next, Charlotte is seen cycling through streets, and then Dr. Dalrymple and Dr. Grant discuss a cholera outbreak over dinner. At the table, Grant explains Lord Edmund helped finance his education, and then Grant and Emily start talking about self-improvement, citing several books they've read. Charlotte arrives late, greets her father, and is introduced to his new assistant, Dr. Grant. During dinner, Charlotte explains her delay, due to attending a friend's complicated 8th birth. Charlotte asks if childbearing is a nasty topic best avoided at supper, or a miracle for any setting, and Dr. Grant remarks he prefers medical matters left to experts. Dalrymple reflects on Charlotte's past, lamenting a lack of punctuality and decorum, saying he can't finance her philanthropic activities anymore. The tense discussion unfolds over money, duty and societal expectations, and Grant is uncomfortable. Charlotte strongly defies hardship, slamming the door when she leaves, and Dalrymple remarks she's a hard case. Later, Grant asks Emily why the two sisters contrast so. She remarks, Charlotte is just emotional about helping people. Somewhere, Charlotte is educating young children. And back at the house, Grant encounters the maid, Molly the Lolly. She asks if he fancies a lick and he quickly leaves. A woman is worried her husband will leave her, and Charlotte gives her some money. Next, Grant is doing his first procedure. Grant prepares the oils, asking if what he's doing is comfortable, and she remarks it's very nice. Time passes by and more women hear about their clinic. More and more women make appointments, and Grant starts getting to know Emily. All while Charlotte continues her non-profitable venture. Eventually, Grant starts getting chronic pain in his right hand from all the work. He even struggles picking up a fish. Emily kindly helps him, and then Dr. Dalrymple offers a partnership to Grant, suggesting he may inherit the practice. He adds he and Emily would be a great couple, making the two uncomfortable. While strolling in a park later, they get even more uncomfortable seeing two ducks doing a workout. One evening, Charlotte arrives with a woman who has broken her leg, and Grant decides to help her without compensation. During treatment for her leg, she reacts in pain, passes out and receives plaster. The two then discuss hysteria among half of women in London. He says he'll meet her again in 6 weeks to remove the plaster. In the park, Grant proposes an arrangement like her father said, and Emily agrees, stating it will make her father happy. The two remark upon duty above all. Upon entering the office, Dalrymple instructs Grant to cease assisting Charlotte, reminding him of their understanding. A man delivers supplies to Charlotte, but she can't pay, and says she'll come by his boss next Friday and give the money herself. Elsewhere, Grant talks with Edmund about not being able to perform with his hurting hand, and Edmund says he could use his tongue, and suddenly he's tripped by a bicycle. It's Charlotte, and Grant introduces her to Edmund. She then asks Grant how his work is going, remarking it can't be easy to pleasure half the women in all of London. Edmund remarks she's spicy. Charlotte then requests a £200 loan from some old friends, offering her mother's jewelry for security, which the older friends of her father accept. After discussing her unusual work, she thanks them a lot, saying it means a lot to many people. Grant arrives at Charlotte's business location, inquiring about the woman with the broken ankle. Grant examines the patient's healed ankle and accepts tea from Charlotte. He looks around and starts reading a children's book. She explains they're teaching children hand washing and efforts to help women, and Grant acknowledges her progressive ideas. Charlotte envisions a community center with a garden, school and clinic, requiring 2 adjacent buildings, but that it would cost £2,000. She passionately discusses women's rights and the urgent need for a doctor to address malnutrition and other illnesses among the children, hinting at him coming to help her. He says he's sorry and dismisses her, and she becomes upset. Next, he cools down his hand for the pain before his next visitor arrives, a striking woman in red. He begins like normal, but then she yells out saying his hand is so cold. He tries his other hand, but have not practiced. He fails at his job and she says disappointed, "That's enough for today," and he smiles. Grant remarks this has never happened before. Dalrymple then scolds Grant for the failed treatment that has discredited his practice, and Grant requests another chance. Dalrymple doesn't give him another chance, and Grant leaves defeated and seemingly ruined. He temporarily moves in with Edmund, who's working on a device, when suddenly the phone rings. Grant tests the spinning device and feels a nice vibration in his hand, while Edmund concludes the phone call. Edmund turns it off, but Grant tells him to turn it on again. He remarks the vibration makes a tingling feeling and makes his hand pain feel better. They increase the speed, and they beam with joy at his steam-powered electrical invention. Suddenly, it short-circuits. Edmund remarks he could use this device instead of his hands for the ladies, asking who they should test it on. They ask Molly the lolly who they also pay, and they start the machine, causing her to shriek and shake. The two watch her intently. Edmund looks happily while she writhes on the table and moans in pleasure. And Grant asks how it felt. Molly the lolly remarks everyone she knows would want one of these, and the two discuss its efficacy with Dr. Dalrymple. He agrees to test it, and they get a volunteer to demonstrate the electric massage device. The patient experiences powerful spasms from the electro-vibratory massage, starting to sing. The woman laughs satisfied and the 3 men are happy. Next, Grant and Emily are having an engagement party. Meanwhile, some debt collectors infiltrate Charlotte's business area. Charlotte arrives to the party and Grant is stunned at her beauty. The two engage in a heated discussion about his practice, while he says it's just a treatment for the nerves. She tries to convince him he's giving women pleasure. She explains some men can't satisfy their women, which is why he's got so many customers. They speak with a man and a lady that Dalrymple used to know, and meanwhile Dalrymple and Emily are on their way in a carriage. Soon after, Emily and her father arrive, and they apologize for being so late. Dalrymple and Emily start talking to the Lord and Lady, and Grant is yet again alone with Charlotte, who introduces him to her friends she borrowed £200 from. She reveals to Grant about her debt, and he seems a bit concerned. Edmund discovers he's late for the party, and Dalrymple holds a speech. Suddenly an injured woman appears telling Charlotte men came to close down their facility, and Charlotte's father says he did it to stop her disgraceful venture. She calls him a villain as police come to get the woman. The police refuse to let Grant attend to her wounds, and Charlotte becomes so hysterical she hits a police officer. And Edmund just arrived asking if he missed something. Because of her actions, Charlotte ends up in jail. Her family debates how to save her from prison after her arrest, and they ask Grant to testify and say Charlotte is hysterical, which would send her to a sanatorium but keep her out of prison. Next, a lawyer says Charlotte assaulted a police constable carrying out his duty, but argues this isn't her first offense. The lawyer then reads a previous charge of solicitation, which she denies, claiming her friend Molly the Lolly was the prostitute in that case. The prosecutor summarizes her charges and then scolds her attempt at educating children. Charlotte becomes angry and hysterical, and the lawyer argues she's demonstrating her erratic, aggressive, and violent emotions, best described as incurable hysteria. He then calls on Dr. Grant as a witness, being a medical doctor specializing in treating women diagnosed with hysteria. Grant then takes the oath to tell the truth. He testifies about treating hundreds of women, and describes from his professional experience that Charlotte is erratic, volatile, and the most vexing woman he has met. The prosecutor recommends her remand to the Institute for the Criminally Insane, and immediate surgical hysterectomy. But then Grant says he wasn't finished, adding she's the most generous, selfless and Christian woman he's met. Dr. Grant then says his professional opinion is that hysteria is a fictional diagnosis for women lacking opportunity and subject to unsatisfactory relations. Grant faces the judge and argues against a diagnosis of hysteria for Charlotte, and people applaud. The judge then tells the prosecutor he finds his case for hysteria wanting. The judge remarks he would have to send half of the women in England to hysterectomy if the prosecutor had his will, and instead sentences Charlotte to 30 days in prison for hitting an officer. Charlotte praises Grant's medical invention, thanking him. He asks if she'll be alright, and she remarks she's got a lot of friends in prison. Next, he and Emily meet and break their engagement. He comes home to Edmund, who gives him an envelope. Grant says he doesn't want his money, but Edmund says it's his shares of the royalties for the portable electric massager, which is now selling all over the country. Edmund remarks he's got his own fortune now. Grant walks by the facility Charlotte lost and ponders. 30 days later, Grant meets Charlotte as she's released from prison. He gives her a getting out of prison present and an envelope, saying he is apparently rich now, saying he wants to help her with her plans. She's caught off guard, and even more so as he picks out a ring, going down on his knee and asks if she would let him be her partner, and asks her to marry him. She kisses him, and then says yes. The couple then continues kissing passionately in the snow. Sometime later, Dalrymple remarks he's happy for Charlotte and Grant. Next, the electrical device is sold as Jolly Molly across England, and women of all ages and classes enjoy its power. And last of all, we see Queen Victoria herself receiving her own. The end. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this, and hit the like button to help us out. Until next time, take care.